speaker, and there's going to be a round of speakers, as you guys know, you've probably seen the schedule. But it's going to be a really, really fun-filled day with a lot of great information for you guys to take back to your offices. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Marc Saltzman, who is a technology evangelist, and he will give you a bit more of a description about himself. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Can't think of a better place than Jacobs & Co. Right? Great meal, and thanks for having me to Quadbridge and for that lovely introduction. Yeah, so I'm going to be chatting today about modernizing IT for business, modernizing your space, but I'm going to stop short of calling it revolutionary instead of evolutionary, and transformation and disruption, all these overblown terms. We're going to look at some real, I think, practical technologies that are emerging and where we're going in the near future. First, a little bit about myself. Thank you for that, Nelson. I am a technology evangelist, is what I like to call myself, because I like to preach about the benefits of technology for consumers and businesses. And I do so in a way that I call breaking down geek speak into street speak. Usually when I'm talking to a crowd, they're not IT professionals like yourselves. So it's often, as you likely know, I call it passing the mom test. If people understand my articles and my radio shows, then I've done a good job, even if they're not that tech savvy. I am a freelance journalist. I write for about 30 newspapers and magazines and websites around Canada and the US. Sometimes it does bleed into business technology. In fact, last week's USA Today article was on backing up your critical data. In fact, you're going to see a lot of synergies between consumer tech and business tech in my chat. I write these kinds of books like the Dummies books. Again, it helps with what I'm trying to do to demystify technology. I host various radio shows in Canada and the US. In Toronto, it's on News Talk 1010, and in Montreal, it's on CJAD 800, our sister station. I know I'm name dropping, but yes, I'm fortunate to do a lot of TV work both in Canada and in the US. Mr. Wolf Blitzer, again, trying to explain tech in plain English. And I do have a show about business technology on Bloomberg in the US. It'll be on this Saturday night at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Okay, enough about me, just a bit of context about who I am and the kind of work that I do. But we are here to talk about emerging tech trends for business. Consider this a refresher, a primer, given what you do for a living, and possibly with a bit of a consumer lens as well, which I think you'll find interesting, as a lot of these, again, these technologies are blurring the lines between consumers and businesses. We'll talk collaboration tools, we'll talk telecommuting or remote working, artificial intelligence, we'll chat IoT, Internet of Things, and mixed reality, augmented and virtual reality. Again, consider this a thought starter. You're going to have a deeper dive on some of these conversations today with the other guest speakers. So sort of setting it up, if you will. And I know, I get it. You're the powers that be, the C-suite, they're looking to you to help pivot towards the future. And I know it can be overwhelming and intimidating. They want to know what technology to double down on, when, with whom, and how to best execute it without breaking the bank. And I mean, there's so many variables, as you know, so many balls to keep in the air and trying to keep so many different parties happy. So it can be overwhelming. What Canadian presentation would be complete without a hockey reference? I tried to talk, like what Wayne Gretzky often said about himself was that he skated where the puck was going to be, not where the puck is. And this is to help, of course, pivot to go forward with technology. And we all know those the companies who did not embrace technology, what happened to them. Bit of a drama. I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but you could see some of these logos here of companies that didn't quite make it because they didn't embrace technology at the right time or at all. And I know that you get this. I'm preaching to the converted with folks like yourself. But I'm not, again, suggesting that you need to overhaul everything, but even selecting various tools and deciding, especially those scalable ones, which ones to invest in can really help make a difference. All right, let's talk collaboration software. Becoming more and more popular, as you know. I'm not here to say that email is dead. I think it still has its place, but there's so many advantages to collaboration tools. And of course, I am referring to the likes of WebEx Teams and Microsoft Teams and Slack, these tools that are becoming more popular, but interestingly, in Canada, we're not embracing them as much as they are to our friends to the south. Just an interesting stat that we're not quite yet there. So I think there's a lot of room to implement and support these types of technologies, these collaboration tools. And again, there's so many benefits. It's not linear like email is. It supports remote workers, which we're going to get to more in a moment. So even if people aren't there with you physically, it's a lot easier to collaborate in real time, exchange ideas in whichever way they want. It could be text, it could be audio, it could be video. You can swap files, you can have private messages, you have an auto log, you have someone taking minutes virtually of the entire chat. Everything is segregated into channels and groups and campaigns, and it just makes it's just a great canvas in which to lay out the ideas and exchange ideas regardless of where people are, regardless of the device they're on, both in device and in operating system, and whether they're there physically or remotely. And again, it's scalable and fairly easy to support, I'd argue. You would be able to confirm or deny that, but relatively easy to support. And for the company to invest in, whether you're paying per person or paying per device, it's pretty easy to scale. You buy what you need, in other words. So expect collaboration software to become increasingly popular, and you're going to get a better taste of that today, this afternoon. Remote working. Okay, so I already hinted at that. This is expected to be a huge boom because of technology. This is happening more and more. As you can see, I've written about it. That's me in my home office there. So I am an example of a remote worker, as a lot of my work is in the U.S. And it's funny. Instead of Generation X, they're calling it Generation Flex. You could expect that Gen Y, or millennials, as well as Gen Z, they are expecting to work in a flexible environment should their organization allow it. There's several benefits to it, and it's kind of like a different mindset. Work isn't where you are, but it's what you do, and it's measured, of course, not by punching a clock, but by milestones that you're reaching in any kind of guidelines. And again, we don't need to go through all the benefits, but there's benefits for the environment because there's fewer cars on the road, benefits for the employer because they don't have to pay as much for office space and electricity and cubicles and equipment and all that. And of course, better work-life balance for the person working at home. They're happier, they're more productive, say all of the surveys commissioned over the last couple of years. Again, you can work wherever you want because of technology. And if you consider how long we do commute in Canada, especially in Toronto, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. If you add up all the time that you're behind the wheel or on a train or on a bus, twice a day, 5 days a week, 20 odd days a month, it can really add up. So the problem is, for the IT folks, you have to support it, right? You have to be there for workers. They may be on different time zones. They're on different devices with different operating systems. It's sort of the extension of BYOD. Now it's BYODE everywhere, right? And I get that, and in real time. So with all of these new devices that we're using, you're expected to support it. And there are, thankfully, lots of different tools available to do so. There's a strong push to the cloud. I don't think remote working would be as popular as it is now if the cloud wasn't available or as mature as it is now. It just makes things a lot easier. So definitely the VPN, or virtual private networking, tools like that to keep you anonymous and secure online, mobile device management to lock down and maintain what's going on mobile devices. Somebody could be at their kid's soccer game and they want to get work done on their own personal iPhone. You're unfortunately responsible for securing that. But there are some things that you can do to help promote remote workers and support them. The first thing is, again, 24-hour tech support. I know it's easier said than done, but for one, we're talking about different time zones. The benefit to the employer, another benefit is that they can hire the best person for the job, not just because they're in close proximity to the office. But that means, unfortunately, that you may need to take that call early in the morning or late at night. There's some automation going on, which we'll get to, but that's certainly an important consideration. Updated tools. So, I said that remote workers are a lot more productive, but that's only as long as the technology is cooperating. And as long as that they can have access to the intranet and to the other tools that the remote worker needs that is supported, that's going to be contingent upon how productive they are and how happy they are as well. Again, new software investments, as the IT focus for remote work shifts, many new vendors are emerging to fill any potential gaps in user productivity. Some software, for example, helps both employees and employers know how the remote workers' time is being used and being managed, for example. So look to add some new tools to your arsenal. And then finally, cybersecurity. It always boils down to that. We can't risk a breach for the company's consideration, for the company's customers. Obviously, that's a sort of an obvious statement. But there are more risks when you have remote work that can be acknowledged across the board. Now, what does the future look like? So we're sort of migrating from a text-based remote work environment to more of a video-centric one, which is, I would argue, where we are now, thanks to a lot of these tools and cameras that we have on these devices in our pocket or on our PCs at home. And then going forward, we're going to see a lot more virtual work and collaboration using virtual reality and other tools. And eventually, it could even be holograms. Take a look at this video, by the way. This is from Oculus Rift, acquired by Facebook for almost $3 billion. This guy is talking to his daughter in the same room, right? No. She is in another room. If you look in the top left corner, and she is a hologram. So what he sees by wearing this headset, it's as if she is there with him in that same room. Now, that's a consumer angle. That's maybe, social media circa 2025. But you can see the business applications for conducting business with potential customers or within the organization to collaborate as if you were there in person. That's mind-blowing to me, that she is appearing to be in a 3D space in front of him, even though she is not. Pretty wild stuff. Let's now talk AI, artificial intelligence. I would argue this is one of the most significant advancements in technology over the last couple of years, and it's impacting business on many different fronts, as you likely know, from chatbots and virtual assistants to AI powering a lot of these services, like platforms as a service and infrastructure as a service. But at its core, we're talking about automation, AI being the capability of a machine to learn and adapt and perform as if they were human. And we are using these as tools to remain productive and efficient, save money, and work remotely as well. We're seeing almost, again, this evolution of platforms. We've seen software as a service, and then platforms and infrastructure. And AI is arguably the next step in the evolution of software as a service and services being delivered, the serverless computing, if you will. The first wave of cloud computing can be attributed to platforms, as I mentioned, the PaaS. And then the next big thing in the cloud was infrastructure as a service, where customers can provision virtual machines and storage all by themselves. The third wave of cloud, it's kind of where we're at now, centered around data platform services. And then the next wave will likely be AI. Cloud providers are gearing up to offer a comprehensive stack that delivers AI as a service. And again, we all have different budgets. Different companies have different budgets, different needs, and a lot of this is scalable. You can buy what you need and then grow from there with very little risk. Again, this is a really huge pivot, I would argue, for businesses today. You're going to hear a lot more about cloud offerings today that can help organizations really realize what's possible with your data, right? The devil is in the data, as they say. Chatbots. This was, I think, an overpromised and underdelivered phrase over the last couple of years, but I think it was just a bit of a false start. I think the AI is getting better and better to service both your customers as well as employees internally. We all have these devices in our pocket, the latest smartphones, and we're used to apps and voice assistants, and I do think that the consumer expectation is also going to grow, and that is what we're going to see. We're just really on the tip of it. Right now, at this point in time, chatbots are a very small percentage of ways that customers are interfacing with businesses. But I think that's going to flip around as more and more of that interfacing is going to be reliant on artificial intelligence. I think that right now, I think it's estimated that I think it's 10 to 13% of a chat is initiated by AI, and then it's the rest is when the AI doesn't know how to help the customer, so it pushes them onto a human. That number is going to shrink, and it's going to go on its head, and we're going to see like 60-70% of AI. Again, it's an exciting. Oop, I skipped forward. Pardon me. Tech guy doesn't know how to use a slide presenter. Again, I do think that it's going to grow exponentially, the reliance on chatbots. Easy to implement and support, relatively speaking. Some interesting facts on chatbots. There's over 300,000 chatbots with Facebook Messenger alone. Not to mention other messaging platforms and websites, again, being one of the first places that a person goes to when they need help as well for with that company. 40% of millennials say that they chat with chatbots on a daily basis. Is interesting. That's a US stat. This video is Capital One got in trouble with this ad, but it's their FinBot called Eno. This is doing your banking through a chatbot. They got in trouble with that ad, but anyways, funny enough. And some industries will benefit with chatbots over others. At least right now, we're seeing travel and real estate, education, healthcare, and finance being the top sort of verticals. But we're going to see chatbots and a human-like voice also really starting to play a role in other industries as well. And then finally, 64% of internet users surveyed say that 24-hour service is the best chatbot feature. That's why they use chatbots, is that they don't have to be told, you're calling after hours, call back, so-and-so. Again, consumer expectation. There are millions of smart speakers in Canada and 115 million smart speakers in the US. So people are getting used to using their voice to make, for example, free phone calls from home to a company. And here's where we're going next with this. Have a listen.
Good evening.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, I'd like to reserve a table for Friday the 3rd.
Okay, hold on one moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hold on one second.
Mm-hmm.
So Friday, November 3rd. How many people?
For 2 people.
2 people?
Yeah.
What time?
At 5 p.m.
You guys know the twist with that? The guy calling the restaurant isn't real. It's AI. It's called Google Duplex technology. It's already available in the States. The only difference now is that there's a disclaimer when that human, that woman working at maybe Jacobs & Co. picks up the phone, it's going to say, the preceding conversation is with an artificial intelligence. Okay, so it warns you, or whatever it's going to say. But it's already here. That's not smoke and mirrors. So the AI is getting so advanced that you can instruct, someone can instruct their smart speaker to call and book a reservation or a haircut or a whatever through their voice, and it handles the rest and then emails you a confirmation. Pretty wild stuff. Now, that's a chatbot example of a B2C example, if you will, but there's also internal opportunities.
Hello, this is Dayforce. What would you like to do? How can I help you?
Dayforce, who can I trade my Thursday shift with?
Steve Smith will most likely take it. Would you like me to ask him?
Dayforce, generate my usual Friday reports.
So this is being
I will
unveiled.
compile your overtime.
This is being unveiled today in Las Vegas at the Ceridian Insights event. And that is their Dayforce technology, next gen, where you can do the HR and you can do the payroll and you can do the scheduling through your voice. Just like that. That's how fast AI is evolving. What's next? We've gone from text-based AI with chatbots over Facebook Messenger to audio-based chatbots. How about video? This is a newscast in China, where in China they're feeding raw data about the news to virtual broadcasters who are not just making the lips look and sound like it's a real person, but they're also writing the article, they're writing the news stories in AI. So pretty wild. This is the male version of that same channel. You can still see, it's like that deep fake videos. You can still see the lips a little bit suspicious. But what's going to come after this is CG quality AI coupled with video. This is Siren.
Hello, I'm Siren, and I'm a digital human. I was created by an international team
We may not know the difference soon.
Who wanted to challenge
We're
our
still a
ideas
few years
of what
away,
a
but a fun look at where we're
synthetic
going
human
with
could be.
AI. Fun but
I've
scary
got
look at where we're
state-of-the-art
going.
real-time graphics and an unprecedented level of detail.
They even make her like a little bit less perfect, like her teeth are a bit crooked and her eyes look a little bit red, because you're going to do a double take when you walk by a screen and see that. And again, we've seen the BYOD movement. We all are using our own devices. That technology that we're getting used to, the consumers aren't going to want it to stop when we walk in the door at work. They're going to expect it. And even on wearables, this is the new Echo Frames from Amazon, debuted last week.
Alexa, good morning.
Built into the eyeglass.
Your next event is Coffee with Rebecca at 9 a.m.
Echo Frames
So
direct
you can
sound
see
straight
how
to your ears,
AI
so
is
you can
going
discreetly
to
hear
continue to
Alexa.
evolve
And
and
with
mature as we go on. Again, I know I'm talking to a room of IT professionals. I'm approaching it from a little bit more of a consumer angle, but I hope you enjoy that. We're going to keep going on and talk. Again, that you are responsible for, unfortunately, for supporting all these bots, both in the collection of the data and the implementing of it, as well as internal chat bots. Again, if your employees need help, I said earlier that human connection is important with remote workers and that they want to have 24/7 tech support. But you could start offloading it to a human-like, chat bot, the AI IT servicing internally. That's going to be a thing as well. And of course, the more data that you're dealing with and collecting, the more you're going to need to manage that data. And as that data continues to grow, you're going to, of course, need to find new places to, new ways to collect and hold all that data, as you can see. All right. I was a little ahead of myself. Second last topic is IoT, Internet of Things. You're mostly, I'm sure, very well aware of this. Again, sort of a lot of buzz about it, and then it quieted down. I think when 5G and Wi-Fi 6 matures, we're going to see a lot more about IoT. Of course, it refers to the fact that billions of devices are all talking to one another without very little or no human intervention. M2N, machine to machine. And I love this Cisco example. They call it IoE, Internet of Everything. It shows the chain reaction of a consumer needing something and then the domino effect with everything that needs to happen, all automated in order to get that, in this case, milk delivered to somebody's house. It's a fascinating video that Cisco produced a couple of years ago. It's one of my favorite examples of IoT, just showing you all the different steps and how it's just going to, all this automation, as scary as it might be and daunting for an IT professional to support, is really going to help streamline businesses. So IoT, expect that again. You could see whomever you turn to for your data, for your stats, you could see that it's growing exponentially. And again, when we see the next generation services come, the infrastructure, expect IoT to continue to grow on a macro level, like within a smart home, as well as on a micro level and a macro level with smart cities, and everything in between, including businesses, are going to be disrupted by Internet of Things. An example with an IT example, imagine you're working for an organization that has assembly lines and some warehousing, and a machine breaks down in the middle of the night. Today, if you don't have anybody there working to tell you that the machine broke down, you're going to come into work the next day to this unfortunate surprise. But imagine with a simple and inexpensive sensor or sensors on the equipment, the moment a machine fails, you're notified with a push notification wherever you are on virtually any device. So that's an example of what IoT can mean for the IT space. You can't spell IoT without IT, I know. I'm here all week, stay for the veal, that kind of thing. But yes, the onus does fall on you to support it, and it can be overwhelming, but there are so many different partners that can help to help you select the right IoT strategy and implement it. Lots of moving parts, software and hardware. And security is obviously a big concern when it comes to IoT. All these new points into the internet or intranet is another risk for you to manage. I get that. But some IT professionals are actually turning it on its head, and they're using IoT to help further secure an organization. For example, with two-factor authentication, you could make devices on your employees serve as a secondary or tertiary way to authenticate them. So they're using a smartwatch, for example, which might seem like an extra risk, actually being used to let somebody into a building or into a secured area of the organization. So it's using IoT to secure it, ironically. And again, there's lots of different approaches. You're going to probably hear about this today to IoT. And when the infrastructure, if 5G lives up to the promise of being up to 100 times faster than LTE, to then 4G, then we may really start seeing this, just as sensor prices are coming down and new platforms are debuting. It's going to be an exciting time over the coming years. And then finally, mixed reality. It may seem like it's just for video gamers, but there are lots of different applications for both VR, where you're fully immersed in a headset and you don't see the real world around you, and augmented reality, where you can see it augments it. It adds digital information layered on top of the real world around you. Yes, I did put adult entertainment at the end. It would be remiss not to acknowledge that VR is affecting every industry, but there are lots of business applications. This is a new spot that Hilton and some others like Nestle Purina have used to show how VR is being used for training purposes. They're doing this at Chipotle in the US. They're using VR to train people on how to make a burrito. And it's happening also in this space as well, in the hotel space and hospitality. Again, it's being able to have the employees walk through the actions without any consequences and being scored on it with some AI on the back end. Pretty exciting stuff. There are other applications for VR, even on the consumer end, shopping. Imagine you're not physically able to get to a mall, but one day soon you could be virtually online shopping from a first-person perspective, wearing a headset from anywhere, like from the comfort of your home, I should say, and walking around virtually. Whatever you drop into your cart is automatically added to shipped to your home. So there's that types of applications. Again, shopping. Again, the woman on the right is what she looks like in real life, but on the left is what she sees. She's shopping for shoes virtually by being able to hold it, manipulate that object, change color, shape, see it on a mannequin, and purchase it there. Now that's where we're at today with the controllers that are kind of like smart gloves, if you will. But if you saw last week's new Oculus demo, you soon may not need any handsets at all. You can manipulate content in virtual reality just using your hands because of cameras and sensors on the headset itself. So this is an example of the new Oculus technology that was unveiled at their developer conference. So imagine being able to touch it. And then what they're saying is even after this is having tactile feedback, like haptics, delivered wirelessly to your hand. So if you grab a doorknob in a virtual environment, you actually may feel the texture of that door. Pretty wild stuff. And then that's VR, of course. And then AR, we've seen the consumer examples, right? Where you can see, a Pikachu superimposed in the park beside you, in a game of Pokemon Go, or Instagram and Snapchat filters where, it looks like you're a dog, even when you move your head around. But we're going to start moving from a smartphone-based AR to wearable AR, whether it's HoloLens or even smaller, and eventually contacts and then implants after that. But there are a lot of business applications for augmented reality, superimposing digital information in a collaborative environment or on your own, and for remote workers as well. There's training applications, as you can see here, in real time. They're in the forestry industry in northern BC. They're wearing augmented reality glasses, and they're looking at trees that have a virtual X on it where they know which ones that need cutting or servicing of some sort. And it's all done virtually instead of spray painting. Again, lots of applications with when wearables and AI and AR all come together and over the cloud. You can see that all of these technologies complement one another, and they may seem like a lot of these are consumer-centric, but they are bleeding into business more and more these days. Well, I hope you enjoyed that short kickoff to your festivities this afternoon while you're enjoying your lunch. I want to thank QuadBridge again for having me as your entry-level speaker. Thank you so much, everybody.